Okay, I think we're
Wow,
live.
I think we may be.
Hi, all.
Hey, guys. We have a new announcement.
We have a couple of announcements. We have a few announcements, but Peter is modeling our new GenCore volunteer t-shirts. The back does say GenCore on them. Yeah, I don't know that.
Hey, I mean, I had to wear the buff style.
I don't know that that's what people need to see. I have to fix your tag.
Oh, excuse me.
I thought, all right. Yeah, see the back? That's our GenCore shirts. See? All right. So we now have GenCore shirts for volunteers. They are free for volunteers. So, and we are in the process of hopefully narrowing down and acquiring a volunteer coordinator, which will be great. More on that next week. What is going on? Yeah, everybody please hit the like button and subscribe if you're not subscribed while everybody's getting on.
We hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving, although I know that some people don't like us using that term. Obviously, it's to...
I don't even, you know what?
It is what it is. We want to honor Native Americans just the same. But here's what I think about, this is my opinion about certain holidays, especially if they have a very bloody checkered history. There's only so much we can do in terms of what we can do in the interim to actually change it. Not have the name Thanksgiving is not going to happen. But what I do believe is that we have to take what is in front of us and make it the best possible holiday that we can. You know, to me, Thanksgiving, especially the holiday season, you know, I'm from the Northeast, you know, between Halloween and New Year's.
I used to love it, but this year's been so suck anyway. But you know, last year when I talked about Thanksgiving, I was just very clear that I like it because I have my own now family history of it. I do not recognize it as some sort of like gathering between pilgrims and natives. Okay. Like that ship sailed a long time ago. Like that's just not the case. And I would also be perfectly fine with it being an indigenous people's holiday. I'd be fine with that too.
That's typically what Friday is now.
Yeah, and Columbus Day and all those. As far as I'm concerned, they could all be indigenous people holidays. Have at it. I don't care. I'm about like the family and the food thing. So whatever it is, you can celebrate whatever. But no,
or in the case of, you know, like Mobile School Pantry, giving back to the community. You know, a lot of families.
Yeah, all that stuff is really good. That's the thing. Thanksgiving is a time for people to just sort of reflect.
And it's a shame that it takes, you know, like a holiday to get people to really, you know, be more.
But yet it does. It does because volunteers, you know, everybody wants to volunteer doing food distributions for Thanksgiving. They don't necessarily participate the rest of the year, but everybody wants to do it for Thanksgiving because I know that Thanksgiving is definitely time. If you want to volunteer places, they have like waiting lists for Thanksgiving to volunteer. So, you know, for us and for anybody who's GenCore, we volunteer regular. Actually, and this is something that you don't even know about because I just found out about it before, but I have been invited. I don't know if tomorrow is the official groundbreaking thing, but I am going to the garden in Liberia tomorrow morning to start help digging and doing stuff.
That's news.
Yes. I'm not putting it out there as an invite because it's not my project right now. And I don't feel comfortable doing that at this point. I don't know where they are in the process. But yeah, there is that. So I'm very excited.
If anybody is available, and as you can see, we have these lovely new shirts, and smash that like button if you haven't yet.
Please subscribe.
And please subscribe. Oh, absolutely. Little show, but could be a big show.
Could be a big show.
By next Thursday, we could have a much bigger audience. We'll see what ends up happening.
It could happen.
What I would like to say is for anybody who is in the North Broward area, Mobile School Pantry needs help tomorrow from 11 to 2 at their distribution center in Pompano Beach. So if you are interested, I'm going to put it in the descriptor.
We do. Yeah. I mean, and that actually, you know what? That's
one of our favorites in terms of
it is. I got to tell you, well, Mobile School Pantry is definitely our favorite partner, but working at the distribution center is actually kind of cool. And since the weather is nice, it would be a nice thing to do because it is outside, but with this weather, it wouldn't be a problem. I can't be there, unfortunately. I have an interview that I'm doing tomorrow at 2.
Who are you interviewing?
I am interviewing a woman named Eleanor Goldfield, who she's an activist, she's an artist, she's a filmmaker, but she recently did a documentary, and we're going to be talking about that. And it's called, it's like Hope to, oh my God, I watched it. This is the problem with me with like I watch and read things, but I don't necessarily look at the title. But what it's about is it's about life in Appalachia, specifically in West Virginia, and what that's like environmentally in terms of what's happened to their land from the coal mining, the mountain stripping, we've removed full mountaintops off of mountains to mine them. And in addition, the people in those areas, in addition to being very vulnerable, are also dealing with a fracking situation as well on top of that. So she did a documentary about what that's like there. And so we're going to talk to her about that tomorrow, which will be really cool.
So as you guys know, this has been a very interesting week, but what week isn't, especially during an interesting transition and, all the wonderful things that have been coming about. There's no question that the Biden administration has made it very clear that they are thumbing the progressives in the eye.
Are you going into news?
Oh,
is that what you're doing? Like you're already going news and amuse. All right. Well, I wasn't ready for that.
You're not? Oh, did you want to? Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I just wasn't ready. You just started going.
Okay. Well.
All right. So do we have like a story?
We do have a story.
What's our story?
The story is that a lot of people in politics have kind of, seen a lot of these individuals flying under the radar. It's, a lot of people don't know who Tony Blinken is. A lot of people don't know who Cedric Richmond is. But a lot of people know who Neera Tandem is. And
is that one of our stories? Are we having to talk about
that? Is our number one story. And the reason it's the number one story is because it's really interesting to see how everything unfolds in terms of the people who actually offer dissent. And I must say that the only congressional representative, as you know, that offered dissent against Neera Tandem was none other than Tulsi Gabbard. Now, you can say that, well, Tulsi's on her way out and she doesn't really need to worry about whether there's ramifications to that or not. But Neera Tandem, probably as much as anybody, I would think, in the neoliberal establishment, she made it her life's mission to destroy Bernie and the progressive movement.
She's just horrible.
And the fact that you have Elizabeth Warren, you have Sherrod Brown, you have all these people coming out and saying, oh, Neera would be wonderful to be leading this.
Yeah. And I'm sure she'll work so well with Bernie when he's either the chair or the ranking member of the committee that she has to work with for dealing with the Office of Management.
Well, and all anybody could talk about right now is whether or not Neera's or Bernie is going to confirm her or not confirm her. And they're saying, oh, well, Bernie will definitely confirm her. And I'm just thinking,
he will. He will. I am so disgusted. I can't. This is why I don't.
It's a sad state of affairs. We should not be in this type of situation.
Can I send out like a personal message to? Can I send out a message to Andrew Gillum? Can I say something?
Be very careful what you say.
I'm going to be very careful. This was something that was put out there. That was basically along the lines of that people who don't support people like Neera Tandem and Kamala Harris are sexist and basically being against women of color. And I take major issue with that statement. So I would just like to tell the former mayor of Tallahassee that my issues with them have absolutely nothing to do with vagina. Yeah, I said that. And you know what? My issues with them have to do with the fact that they have dedicated their lives to destroying vulnerable communities and impeding progress and doing everything they can to just get ahead at the expense of other people. That's my problem with them. Nothing to do with their biology. So that's my message. So that's that. Hey, Zena. That really pissed me off. And I refer to him as former mayor because really that's all you got, bud.
Andrew, whom I've met and communicated with personally on several occasions. I know a person who is in his inner circle very well. Look, he took his shot and he ran a phenomenal primary campaign. We don't
need to belabor the Andrew Gillum situation. I'm
saying watching his dissent has been, it's like a Greek tragedy. It's like so bad.
But is it now that he's sucking up extra hard because he thinks he has a chance of making a comeback?
No, I don't think he does. I don't think he does have a chance of making a comeback. But what I think is important to him is he wants to be in the club and he wants to have a career.
Well, and then that's making a comeback. Then that's what that is.
Yes.
So he's still then sucking up to the same people. That is the reason, in my opinion, that he lost. And so because really, why would he need to put out anything about Kamala and Neera. Like, why would he need to say something about that at all? It was just purposely incendiary to make a point, like he's sucking up to somebody.
And that's, well, again, that's the same thing with anybody in the main. It's like anything in the mainstream media. You know, you find very often that people are going to make the comments that they're going to make, and you're thinking, well, who are you appealing to? Because it seems like you're appealing to a very small niche of people. And
unfortunately for us, those are the people that seem to still be running our party in the state. And
well, again, it's not just
that's our problem.
It's not just the party in the state. It's throughout the entire country. But again, it has so much to do with the Beltway, and it has to do with who are you appeasing that's on Capitol Hill and who's in New York City. And if you are appealing to that particular crowd, small crowd, but a lot of money, a lot of resources, a lot of connections, that for them is as important as anything, because it's about how do I have a career out of this? Look at Ana Navarro. Ana Navarro used to work on campaigns. She couldn't do anything, couldn't win nothing. She was in charge of Hispanic outreach here in Florida, and they lost hundreds of thousands of votes compared to 2016. Trump.
I know.
To Trump.
See, this is a problem.
But
and I'll tell you, they can blame us. They can blame us. You know what?
But she's on The View. She's got a career, and Ana Navarro is making a lot of money. I'm talking a lot of money.
You know what? I am loath to say that I used to somehow watch some of those shows like The View, and now, like, I mean, it's been years.
Because you never had a candidate like a Bernie Sanders come along that was and even a Donald Trump that was really willing to upset the apple cart, and it exposed the system for what it is. You never really knew.
I never minded it. I got to tell you, I don't care what anybody says. I knew he would facilitate the revolution, and quite honestly, I'm thankful for it.
And you know what? It's only going to get worse now, because the Biden transition team is doing nothing to curtail this. They are literally spitting in progressives' faces. And by
Tandem.
Could you imagine if they take it a step further and put up Rahm Emanuel?
No, it's like, but him and her, those to me are really bad. And also this woman that I never remember these people's names. They all look like the same to me, but the woman for the Health and Human Services Department that he picked, who is the governor. I think she's the governor of Rhode Island.
The Italian woman. I forget her name.
All I know is she is now, like, apparently the biggest percentage of COVID cases in her state are in assisted living facilities. And so instead of addressing the problem, she basically
Gina Raimondo. That's it. Thank you, Josh.
Thanks, Josh. She then went ahead and basically created immunity for all of those places so that they are not liable for this. So they have a situation. I want to say it was like 17% of their COVID cases were in these facilities. So instead of dealing with it, and this is the woman that Joe Biden wants to appoint as our Health and Human Services Secretary. So this is almost like a Saturday Night Live routine already with with this cabinet. And I knew it would be bad. I didn't necessarily think Neera and Rahm Emanuel bad, but I knew it would be bad.
No, they have gone out of their way to try to make this a complete whitewash of the it's like, I don't know what their end game is. Like, I had an interesting conversation with a lady today when I dropped your post about how, moderates are just basically, they're accepting of the status quo. They favor party loyalty over policy. They're okay with the corporate money, and the progressives are the complete opposite. And I got to tell you, the people in the chat were just completely incendiary. They're like, you don't know what you're talking about. I am not going to talk to you. But the person
just have to pick sides.
And that is what they see this as a zero-sum game, but that's not what this is.
That's why we can't have nice things. This is why we can't have
Kirsten
nice things.
Sinema, who is one of the most conservative Democrats in the entire Congress.
Then I'm going to make you get back to news.
Yes, but she dresses up in like this funky, purple-haired outfit to troll Mike Pence. And it's like, everyone goes nuts over that. I'm like, I don't care about that. I care about her policy and how she votes.
That ridiculous thing makes news.
It does. That is what makes news. And that's when people need to understand that either you're watching.
I do find that very amusing. I honestly,
for
Mike
a moment,
Pence,
yes.
Well, yes. Mike Pence is somebody that he was born to be trolled. I cannot, like, that. First of all, it would probably be so easy to troll him because he probably has his little panties in a bunch over so many things that would just be so fun to do. So yeah, I do find that amusing. Kudos to her. But it does not substitute for actual doing things in policy. That's the problem. So you have another story for us before we do bootlicker, because we have to do bootlicker before we get to our change maker.
Yes, I know. We have to do that.
We have to do that. So
what I do want to say, though, and this is important, I know we wanted to get to the bootlicker of the week. And Andrew, you're lucky it wasn't you, because there was somebody even worse than you, believe it or not. Hey, Ken.
Wait, who were you talking to? Hi, Ken. That was that you thought would be that we could have done that we're not doing for bootlicker?
I think what Andrew did was absolutely unbelievably inappropriate.
Oh, you're talking about Andrew Gillum?
Yeah, I cannot believe
and
that
he is not. No. I am not. He is not.
It is what it is.
Okay, he is not being relegated to bootlicker
status.
But we do have a good bootlicker. But there was one more.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. But before we get to that, there is one story that I want to touch on very quickly.
Okay.
You know, Jimmy Dore in particular has been really coming after progressives who want to fight within the Democratic Party. I think we have to, as Jen has said many times, fight on all fronts. We cannot be limited to just saying, oh, forget the Democratic Party. No, that's not true, because a lot of people who are even moderates, like a good friend who happens to be watching right now, they're not opposed to the change that is necessary. You know, people have to understand that voters are voters, but the people who have power or seeking power, those are completely different people. And then eventually you get people who get in who are willing to make a stand. And you know what? It's an issue that we unfortunately can't tackle, which is, of course, President Obama. But Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman were not afraid to go after him when he said you can't say slogans like defund the police. Listen, whether you agree with that or not, Cori and Jamal, but especially Cori, come from an area that have, I mean, talk about divided on racial lines. I mean, St. Louis, if you've never been there, I've only been there once briefly, and I briefly drove through Ferguson. There is serious systemic racial issues in a lot of our major cities in this country.
We don't even have, is that what's your next story?
My story
at this point, we're going to have to save our bootlicker for after Lindsey.
We probably will, but the point of the story is that Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush both called out President Obama for telling them what they should and should not be saying.
I wanted to, but I wasn't allowed to.
That is unfortunately an issue that is going to grow bigger and bigger. But, you know, Jamal went on CNN recently and was talking about a couple of these issues like healthcare, like police reform, and they cut him off. And this is something that's, but it's only going to last, but it's only going to last for so long. It's only going to last for so long. And so kudos to Jen's slate mates who have done an amazing job of just not being afraid. Now, of course, you're going to make enemies. It's going to happen. There is no question that this is going to happen. But to the victor go the spoils, you have to be willing to take chances. And to their credit, they are willing to take chances. So, you know, like I said, I can't say enough about the courage that they have. I am beyond ecstatic about the prospects of what they might be able to accomplish. Yeah, there's only, I don't know, how many true progressives would we actually say are in Congress right now? Maybe a dozen, maybe 15.
Which then begs the question as to how there are so many people in that progressive caucus. I know why, because you pay to get in it. It's like $4,000, and then you get to be in the progressive caucus whether or not you actually are a progressive, which now I know is
so. Even as an elected official, you still have to pay dues. Oh, wow.
To the caucus. I believe it was $4,000. If it's not,
if anybody happened, maybe 3 or 4.
I'm pretty sure it's.
Yeah, if anybody who's watching can speak to that. I mean, I don't know.
No, it is. There's a thing. So that's why there are so many people that get to say they're in the progressive caucus when in fact they're not progressive.
No.
So because there's 100 and something people. Well, I haven't heard of 100 and something people demanding Medicare for all or demanding a floor vote on that. So, you know, who are all those progressives in the caucus? I find that very interesting.
There are good progressives in the caucus, but then again, there are different types. There's never been this type of insurgency. You know, we have to remember that it's been like this for multiple decades now. It was only in the last 2-3 years that we've really had an insurgency. These types of changes, you know, it didn't just, it's not like it's really been there.
Right.
All of a sudden, people are now starting to notice, and they're looking at it like, oh, wow, I never realized that the progressive caucus is not really progressive. That's true. It's not, because corporate money dominates the political dynamic of this country.
Are you ready?
And one of the things that we cannot ignore is the fact that the corporate special interest money in politics is really what divides us more than anything else. I don't care if you're progressive, conservative, I don't care if you're moderate, whatever you are. It's corporate versus non-corporate. And that is especially true when it comes to our foreign policy. If you are anti-war and you have that anti-war message, the establishment is going to move heaven and earth to stop you from doing this. And one of the people who decided that it was a bad idea for somebody who is becoming friendly with Jen, and that is none other than Congressperson Ro Khanna, he decided to go on Lauren Ingram's. We do not like Lauren Ingram at all.
Can we just sit for a second, talk about how ridiculous it is when anybody gives anybody a hard time for going on a particular channel and talking? As long as you're
just
sticking
saying
with what your message is, you should tell it to as many people. And you know what? They gave Bernie crap about going on Fox as well. That is, to me, this is ludicrous, and it is anti-progress. So if people want to share their message, it should go everywhere. So
Aaron Rothbar, who works for Vox, like a lot of other establishmenty people, decided that it was absolutely necessary for him to make a very incendiary post about Ro Khanna going on the Lauren Ingram show to talk about how we need to get out of Afghanistan. I don't give a damn whose show you're going on. You could go on the most conservative show on the face of the planet and say, we need to stop spending $1 trillion on war every single freaking year.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if they are grifters that you're talking to. It's a question of the tens of thousands, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of people that are going to see this message and they're going to say, you know what, that's a good point.
Well, and this is, I've always said this, and I don't care who it is. If you're talking about something, the more people you reach, the better. So I've never understood that line of thinking. And yeah, there are certain people that I don't think should be granted credibility.
Yeah.
There are certain platforms and certain people that are, and maybe that you find amoral that you wouldn't want to give credibility to. But in general, if somebody is willing to give you a platform to educate more people, that's what we need to be doing.
And that is why somebody like Aaron Rothbar needs to be called out for what he did. It is again, we believe in freedom of the press 100%, but if you are not fighting power, you are part of it, and that is not what the press is supposed to be doing.
I am 100% anti-censorship. He should say whatever he wants. He is still a bootlicker.
Correct.
So you can say that, but that doesn't mean that you're not accountable for it.
With that said, we are going to bring in an awesome candidate who was also on Jen's slate with Brand New Congress. Her name is Lindsey Boylan. She ran for Congress to represent New York's 10th congressional district.
She'll tell us. I don't know, because I don't even think we've ever met. So that's really cool. But anyway,
not formally.
We're going from bootlicker to change maker. And so
what a great transition.
I know, it's so great. And so welcome, Lindsey.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel like I already know you, Jen. It's this is amazing to be here. Even though we haven't met.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you joined the BNC slate after the summit. Is that what it was? Yeah. Yes. And really that was the only time that I ever met the people that I ever did meet anyway. So that's why we never met. So tell what are you, you must have had like a real motivation for wanting Lindsey to come on right now.
I think that, we've been in obviously conversations about, what's going on right now. And, there's no question that, I look at New York City as the place where there's this sort of this falsehood of whether or not the city is actually progressive. The people in New York City, for the most part, especially in Brooklyn, in Queens, you could talk about Alex's district in, 14. The reality is that most people are progressive. The people who are running the show, they are not progressive.
No.
So that I think in a lot of ways is really the difference. And so would love to hear about, your experience, let the audience know what it was like running for Congress and what it's going to be like now, taking that experience, running to become the Manhattan Borough President.
Yes. Well, can you just put a whole mouthful out there. So first, so first, say that what you are running for now, but then, I am curious what your establishment machine was like for you on the local level, and sort of like we can have like war stories, but tell a little bit about like what part of New York you're in and what you're running for now. And
Absolutely. So I'm in Manhattan, in the West. I live in West Chelsea. When I was running for Congress, it's basically the West part of Manhattan, Lower Manhattan, and parts of Brooklyn. And now I'm running for Manhattan Borough President, which covers all of the borough. And in essence is kind of intended to be like the mayor of Manhattan, someone who deals with land use, zoning, community boards, all the local issues that end up being really important in a time like right now, where we're going to need a lot of federal aid, where we're going to need a new direction for the city, where we're going to need to think about how we're going to help people in terms of housing, in terms of socially distanced, being able to keep people outdoors, keep restaurants in business by doing outdoor dining. All that stuff is exactly what I'm going to need to focus on when I get this job. And Jen, this experience of running for office and running for Congress against the machine, which is what we both did. And so for me to want to step right back into it right now, it's because New York City needs so much help. We were hit very badly by shelter in place and COVID, and of course, we needed to, protect as many New Yorkers as we could, but we lost so many people. We lost so much time, and there's so many people struggling. And now we're, in the midst of another increase in numbers. And we have a governor who is unwilling to tax our wealthiest people. We have a governor who's unwilling to help the city of New York and figure out how to do remote learning and figure out how to keep teachers and parents and students safe and still learning. And instead, he focuses on what a bad mayor we have. And our mayor is truly ineffective. He pretends to be progressive, but he is also not progressive because he hasn't actually helped people. You can only be progressive if you actually help people. It
they like to use the word. They like to say, look, Debbie Wasserman Schultz put out a mailer in our campaign claiming to be the progressive.
No,
she actually used the word progressive. So, I mean, at this point, that doesn't mean anything to me.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And I think if you don't know how to fight back a governor who's just going to run circles around you and play the game of politics, even when it hurts our kids and public schools and public school teachers, all at the same time, then you're not a progressive. And I think we're just now beginning to define what it means to be progressive in New York. Of course, we have great leaders who've paved the path on a national stage. Everyone knows who AOC is. I think Manhattan as a whole has been progressive for a long time, but now you have all of these emerging leaders who are unwilling to just kiss the ring and be progressive in name only. And I think that that's what we've had in a lot of leadership for a long time. You kiss the ring and then you can talk about universal health care, but you can just have that bill sit in the state Senate or the state assembly for 40 years and have it not actually do anything. But if you're not finding every possible way to help people who are really struggling in the city, you're not doing the most you can. And I think that's where we are right now, trying to figure out whatever ways we can help people and change the system and deal with something that still has its roots in Tammany Hall in terms of political corruption and the machine.
So let me ask you this: how do you work in that position in relation to the other mayor? Like, how did those two positions work together? I mean, to me, I'm envisioning sort of like probably we have individual municipalities that have mayors, and then we also have a county, and the county has technically the mayor. But like, what kind of authority can you get? Like, what can you actually be able to do in that position?
Well, I think in many ways, it's going to be defined anew with this moment in time. So for instance, this past mayor, who will be out of office by the time I win, defined his whole agenda was a tale of two cities. And it was all about housing issues primarily, and how he was going to create and facilitate a whole new generation of affordable housing for New York. And he hasn't done that.
I was going to say, how'd that work out?
No, he hasn't done that. And in fact, he's been tied up in, cases of donors to his campaign, in effect being a lot of developers who end up getting what they want from the landscape in the city. And so I think what this job can be, the borough president, it's all about land use. It's all about weighing in on how we make decisions about what gets built, what we do, what we allow. And for a long time, what we have allowed has been luxury buildings with some gimmies of supposedly affordable housing, which are based on, area media income, which is just, to simplify it, for the vast majority of people who need help, it's not affordable, even the affordable housing that we have created. We've got to do we've got to have a totally new approach to housing development in the city of New York, just like we need across the country. I mean, you don't have to be in an urban center to know that we have a housing crisis. Some of the most extreme examples in New York as a state, when I was Secretary for Economic Development, were in our rural areas in the southern tier of the state. And you had a housing crisis there as well. And part of that is our federal government got out of the business of building housing and supporting public housing and facilitating long-term mortgages and building across the country a long time ago. And unfortunately, that coincides exactly with when the government stopped helping was really only helping primarily white Americans in housing development. I mean, you look at Levittown, you look at all these early developments for housing in this country, and how much the federal government put into its long-term agreement with American citizens to give everyone a home or give people a home. It was really only for white people. It was to build a white middle class. And
we have a lot of similar problems here, by the way. I just want to let you know, I see somebody commenting, how come our state and Florida have so much alike? And I'm hearing you talk about that. And one of the biggest problems we have here are developers buying off commissioners to basically just do whatever they want. And they build things without investing in building the infrastructure. And what we're having here will be major saltwater encroachment into our freshwater. But they keep building high rises and keep building this stuff. Like, where is the water going to come from? How are these people, how is that going to work?
Well, and then connect it to, our progressive values that I know we share around the climate crisis. Talk about water. I'm originally from Southern California. The whole Western seaboard, all of the Western states are drawing from the same sources of water, and it's running out. I mean, anywhere you look across the country, the environmental issues we have are right on top of the inequality and the housing issues that we have. And it's the same everywhere, to the point of the person who weighed in. I mean, and we don't have a serious group of people who are confronting that. And I think we're both probably pretty concerned about, I mean, look, I felt like I'm part of the group of progressives that very much felt we needed to get Trump out of office. So I did everything I could to support Biden.
I succumbed as well, and it ended up to be a lost cause in Florida anyway. So,
I know. But, I'm concerned that it's not being taken seriously by enough by this administration based on who they're appointing thus far. And I think a lot of people are frustrated, right?
Yeah. Look, at a minimum, and this is what I said, at a minimum, Biden will get us back into the Paris climate agreement, which was the least we could do anyway. So, I mean, let's be very clear about that. There's nothing like earth-shattering and fabulous about that at all. But that is the bare minimum. I mean, what we have, here, which is a massive problem, obviously, is potential drilling offshore and people that want to drill in our Everglades, overdevelopment. They're ripping out our natural habitats. They're supposed to be investing in rebuilding them, but they don't. I mean, and this is all about corruption. I mean, all roads lead to the same place with all of it, because we know we have the capability of handling this. We know we do. We know that we could be doing things differently, and we know why we're not. And so to me, I feel like our main agenda as people that are seeking progress is to just keep exposing the impediments to that progress, both locally and nationally. Because it's a serious problem. There are people that are like, I can name names, and sometimes I do, as to if you want to know why things aren't happening, this is the person. And there are a handful of those people everywhere. And
Yes.
that's what we're dealing with.
I think it is pretty crass when you think about it. I mean, we're dealing with a couple of zoning changes in the city, and it's literally not an overstatement to say that the only way areas get cited for upzoning, increasing density, is because there's someone who has land that will benefit from it. And they are the ones who say, hey, this area of Manhattan should be upzoned so we can build higher, build more, build more significantly. And that is how the development game works. And that, like, I think it's almost worse when you see all these pieces, how they connect, and it's so divorced from what is actually going to help people, and how all of it works. It's, it needs to change.
It's very frustrating. It's frustrating when you can see the problem and you can even see the solution, but the people just won't let you get there. And we end up fighting our own party, if we want to, the fact that we, and yes, I do support the idea of third parties as well, but I mean, we end up fighting more within our own party than we even have an opportunity to fight against any other opposing force.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think we see that. It took me a long time to see this, so I apologize to my friends in the fight, but
same.
I didn't realize how much hatred fellow Democrats threw at Bernie, and then the inclusiveness of Republicans, on the other hand, who were willing to stick with the GOP throughout all of this hate, and all of this,
they fall in line. They fall in line. Republicans fall in line. And Democrats care more about personality and their touchy feelings, and they don't care about policy. They care about nice platitudes. And so we kind of circle this drain of nothingness because nobody's doing anything. But now we'll get rid of Trump, so everything will be fine now.
Like the circling of the drain, it sounds like, when you take a shower and there's like hair at the bottom.
That is what I think of when I think of like where we are right now. And we could get rid of Trump, so we're basically wiping the ugly face off of what we've become, because that's all he is. He's just a look in the mirror and people don't like the way it looks. That's all he is. I regrettably voted for Obama 2 times. So I will also admit that I was a little later to the party. And I don't mean the political party, I mean the figurative party. But, this is something that when you know better, you do better. And our job is to create more people that know better. That's all we can really do at this point.
People, I mean, I'm very impressed by, like all the people who work on our campaigns. So many of them, not just young people. I mean, I remember I went to a few kind of very establishment political club meetings in New York, which is a total function of New York City. And there would be a quiet lady in the room, and I had maybe heard her speak 1 or 2 times, and everyone was so aghast that I was challenging the system. So aghast, how could I, challenge Nadler? And I turned to her. Yeah, and I
that's his seat.
Exactly.
So they say, this is what I would get. People would say, I'd be like, oh, I'm running for Congress. Oh, that's great. What seat? 23. That's Debbie's seat. Like that, I would get it like that. And there were a couple times when people said it to me and I laughed at them. It's just so ridiculous.
It's just like it's so counter, that people like, he's protecting our democracy. And, every day you look and you see, well, is this really protecting our democracy, especially if he's never challenged? How does that strengthen what it is we all care about? Like, how does that help at all?
It doesn't. It keeps them all just in their little circle jerk feeding their coffers. That's what it does. It keeps them all nice and safe feeding themselves.
The only thing I could say good about Nadler is that he does have a couple of good spots on his record, but he's basically the East Coast version of Adam Schiff. It's to say they were, performance artists on TV every day, and just saying, "Oh, I'm fighting Trump." I'm like, "What are you doing for your district?"
They don't do anything.
What do you do? And with all due respect to Nadler, but he's another Wasserman Schultz in the standpoint of, Debbie's entering her 30th year in politics in this county, and Nadler's been in there, I think, even longer than that.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
it gets to the point where,
how dare you?
you know, and this is much more prevalent on the Democratic side than it is on the Republican
Yes.
side.
Yes. Yes.
Why that is, I don't know.
No, but you know what else is interesting also in terms of, you notice that when Republicans lose, they don't blame the libertarian.
Yeah.
Notice that? They don't get out there and blame the libertarian.
And they could have easily done that with Jorgensen, especially in Wisconsin.
It actually matters.
Jorgensen, because if you know anything about Wisconsin, Lindsay, that is it's like what Scott Walker has done to that state.
All right, don't go too far off.
All I'm saying is there is a libertarian contingency in that state, and she ended up getting enough votes that the margin would have made
really. I actually didn't know that.
Would have won.
Yeah.
Trump would have won Wisconsin. And you know that if Jorgensen was not in the race.
But that is assuming that all of those voters would have then voted for Trump instead of stayed home, which is what I argue when they hated us for voting for Jill
And
Stein.
again, even if that's the case, it is your vote. It is not anybody's job to tell you, oh, no, you can't vote for that person.
They don't think it's an entitlement. These people are entitled. And that is the biggest, that's the most disgusting thing to me about all of it. These are entitled people. They don't feel that they have to earn anything. They don't feel like they have to earn your vote. They don't feel like they have to do anything. They're just entitled to sit there.
I think one of the things that I find so terrible about that notion is that it's not just that person. It's like a whole pyramid scheme of people underneath that.
It is.
And they represent whoever's in power. Everyone below their pyramid scheme looks, acts, has the same experiences as that person. So what ends up happening is, you know, the 6 or 7 people that Nadler has mentored are all white men. Just for example, like it's people with the exact same experience or very similar experiences. When they get in the state Senate or the state assembly, or they get in the city council, they do everything to make sure they're not in the wrong line of whatever he's saying and doing. So you end up getting one person, whereas
they're indebted. They're indebted. And that's a big problem. But you see, now imagine if people actually got elected by people and not corporations, then they wouldn't be indebted to anybody for their seat except for their constituents. Yeah, I tell people it's like this fascinating concept called democracy. It's just crazy. If you actually just answer your constituents.
I know. People are like, what is it like to run? And I'm like, well, it's kind of like being Steve Prefontaine, who's like, he would always run and he would just stay running in the first place because it feels like sucking wind all the time. But I'd rather suck wind my whole life and not owe
any favors.
Not be indebted to someone. I'd rather be sucking wind the whole, my whole life. But bibliography, sucked wind whole life. And
I would say that running for Congress felt like being on a roller coaster, sitting in the front seat, and the back of the train is on fire, and the goal is to get to the finish line before the fire catches up to the front car. Yeah. Because that's really what it felt like to me.
Yeah, Yes, it was. And then doing it amidst COVID was also this, because you want to be helping so many people. And then at the same time, you want to be making sure that you're hearing people's concerns. And in a time like this or 6 months ago, you're not even seeing the extent of people's pain. And that is so sad and so scary. And it's tough. Like we see these stories, we see kind of the remnants of how much pain people are going through, but we can't even fathom the level of pain and loss that goes into, almost 300,000 people dying even, and how many concentric circles have been affected by that.
So what is it like for you campaigning now with the way COVID is now versus what it was like a few months ago? Do you still have a good base of support? Do you still have a good campaign situation?
Yeah. So the seat I'm running for now is an open seat. So that means it's a bigger field of people running, and yet it's totally a different experience because I don't have this one person looming over the race, and I'm very much the progressive in the race, no question. And I call them, the 3 dudes, who are kind of the most, most likely, there are 2 other women in the race, first-time candidates, but these 3 guys are all local electeds. Luckily, I got more votes than the 2 city councilmen in Manhattan. So, you know, what we do is we've built credibility, and now I've been able to hire a team that has done city politics before. Before, you know, I roped in all my brilliant friends to help, and now I have people with the political connections as well in the city to help. People were too afraid because of the DCCC ban before. And it's been, you know, now I think we didn't really know the length of time. Every day, every month, every week was kind of a new experience of what reality was going to look like. And we hoped our government was going to help more than it did, obviously. Now it's almost like a new norm has set in. Like everyone's doing Zooms. They've found StreamYards. They found, you know, we have different ways of connecting. And so there's some sense of normacy, but the need hasn't gone away. So there are ways that I can connect with people and reach them, but it's pretty much all remote, which means I'm wearing a hoodie and my yoga pants and chatting with you, which normally
I'm
I would
wearing
be,
yoga
you know,
pants.
yeah,
I'm
I mean,
yoga pants.
I'm modeling the new
He's
shirt.
modeling our new volunteer
I'm
t-shirt.
gonna buy it. I gotta get a shirt. I gotta get
They're
one.
cute.
Yeah.
He wanted to just put the logo on the front of the shirt, and I'm like, no, because it needs to have a design. And so now our logo's on the back, the Gen Core. That's our volunteer group.
I love it.
We're kind of still figuring out what we're gonna do for podcast shirts. I kind of want to use the same design, but do it on a vintage looking baseball tee with purple sleeves. And the design will be, the letters would be purple instead of white, right? Like, so it'd be reverse. That's what I want to do. But then people like my husband who looked at this shirt and goes, what does that have to do with the Beatles or whatever?
For those of you out there that are watching,
honestly,
please embrace women's touch in politics. For the love of God.
It's really good.
Really.
First of all, we bring purple.
There you go.
And also we bring really cute little designs with suns and stuff, which I think.
You know, it's funny because because we've been a team for a couple of years, and you know, initially I wasn't sure, and it's like, well, it goes against the grain, but then once you know, I'm open-minded. And then once I saw it, I'm like, no, you know what? That's really good. It does make sense. And purple
I'm purple.
Yeah,
purple's wonderful.
Purple's wonderful. First of all, it's a very royal color. But you know what? My theme song in my head, like when I think of people like us coming in, I hear Here Comes the Sun. Like I hear that beginning. I hear that intro every time I think about the change and what we're trying to do. And so really, I feel like that's sort of like the theme song. Now, obviously, we can't really use that because of all sorts of issues, but that's what I picture. So I'm like, I'm just going to stick it on the shirt then.
It's so funny you hear that. I hear "Gimme Shelter," Rolling Stones.
Wow. Okay.
I'm like,
are we going to have this Beatles versus Stones debate here?
No, but no, you know what? Look, there are motivating moments where I definitely hear more of that hard rock sound, but I'm just talking like this we are going to be the nice, refreshing change that we've all been seeking for so many years. Like that's the goal. Like that's what I'm trying to create my future with that. Like I'm envisioning it.
Absolutely.
We kind of, you know, it's funny. After the campaign had concluded in August, we weren't down. We were like, we really did start something here. Like we really started to build something. And, you know, a lot of other people run for office. They really have to understand that it is not about you. This is a movement to build these relationships, you know, for a lot of these people. Again, like you said, you know, with Nadler and with Wasserman Schultz, you're not running against one person. You're literally running against you're running against a commodity. That just happens to be the person at the top. The person who is overseeing the unions, who is overseeing
it's a whole thing.
The
mayoral seats and you know, everything. It's complicated stuff.
It's the how dare you lady in the
well,
audience.
Because again,
she's angry because her power is proximity.
Yeah, well, again, you know, it's like Jen and I were talking right before you came on about the Progressive Caucus, and you know, you can complain about a lot of issues that you know exist with the, various chapters on the Hill. But the Progressive Caucus in particular is one where people are like, this is not progressive. And of course it's not.
Well, that's just, it bothers me that they're allowed to do that.
Yeah. But nobody was really paying attention to this prior to Bernie and Trump running for office. It became a whole new thing where people were looking at this from a different lens that they never saw before because, obviously Trump's a false prophet, but Bernie was definitely the genuine article from the standpoint of, no, I really am going to do things differently. I'm not going to take your dirty money. I'm actually going to run and try to appeal to the people who really need the help. And then once that happened and once he caught fire, then they didn't really know what to do because they know what he was selling was infinitely more appealing than whatever BS they've been selling.
Working, and I think we're making inroads. So, Lindsey, let me ask you, what can people do if they want to help you? I mean, I'm so used to saying that, but do you need help running for Manhattan Borough?
I do. I need people.
I wish we had we should have graphics.
I'm going to.
No, but make a comment and then put it up on the screen.
Lindsey, what's your website?
Lindsey for New York. Lindsey with an E for New York. And we launched our
FOR.
FOR. That's a thank you. Good qualifier. Lindsey FORNEWYORK. It's weird to actually try and spell things out. .com.
.com.
See, people know the .com. Yes. No, this is great.
So LindseyforNewYork.com.
Yes.
Right,
so they go there, they can watch our video, they can donate, they can, when we're doing phone banking, that's really going to start in earnest at the beginning of 2021. We need all the help and all the spreading of the message.
When is it?
So it's the third week. The primary is really what matters in this city because, it's a Democratic city. So it's the third week of June in 2021. So we've got a little bit of time.
Okay.
Well, you know how this goes. It goes pretty quick, and I just felt like got to dive right back in. It's kind of like childbirth. I'm just right back in it before I forget it.
Well, you don't want to lose momentum and you don't want to lose your nerve. And, you go long enough without having children, you start to really appreciate that nice child.
Exactly.
Do you have kids?
I have a 6-year-old. Yes, she's my little boss. That's her.
Oh, yeah. Well, just so you know, my kids are about 6 years apart. So I actually made it that far with one too. So,
See, that's probably kind of the trend I'm on is that kind of, everyone has their own space.
Everyone, you know what? And there's pros and cons to every way you do that. You know that, like there's pros and cons, but, I could not have done it when my kid was little. The people who have toddlers and then have babies, I think they're nuts. Like I have never for the life of me understood why anybody would purposefully
have them that close.
Well, they do it to get it over with. Plus you're in diaper shorter time and all that. Like there is a reason for it.
There is.
Yeah. I'd lose my mind.
I don't think I could have done it, but it would have been cool. Cause I love this age. 6 is so much fun. I would love to have like several kids around this age where we're out having fun. We're at the park. Yeah.
4 and 9 were the best years for me. And now I've got a 14 and a 20. And so it's
now you're like, give them away.
It's all
Lindsey, quick question. Have you been able to form because obviously down here in Florida, we're kind of on our own, if you know what I mean. Yeah. But up in New York, there's obviously a lot of, good people that were on, your slate. Yeah. In particular, Jen's very friendly with Lauren Ashcraft
Melanie. There's a whole bunch.
Melanie
very close friends. Very close friends.
That's so nice. I wish
we text each other. Yeah, we text each other. We support each other, and it broadens the circle. I've become friends with, Melanie has a few friends through the kind of women's progressive group that I've become friends with. We went to DC to protest the most recent SCOTUS appointment, Amy Coney Barrett together.
You're not a fan? You're
come on, you don't want to wear those hoods?
Exactly. No, it's been amazing to have friends like that. And I think, what you mentioned, there is a real progressive movement in the city. People are tired of it. And it's being led a lot by women. And then at the city council level, I'm trying to support as many women as I can because, we're going to be the change agents.
You're going to get all the support from people, and I would definitely be reaching out to Jamal if I were you.
Yes.
Well, Jamal, Alex, and look, the showdown's coming. It's going to be Alex's side versus Hakeem Jeffrey's side. And it's just a question of when it happens, because there's New York's sort of like ground zero, no pun intended for that. But what the last thing I want to ask is, and speaking of a group that's very helpful, the Long Island activists were a group that really were helpful to Jen. Robert Buonaspino, who runs that group, he's really awesome.
Long Island activist? You probably don't, because
I don't.
Talk to Melanie.
I will.
I know that she got help from
those
them.
guys
They
will
are
help.
committed. They are committed.
I will.
I mean, they will
They
work.
started out as a Bernie group, but then
Right.
I think they eventually changed. They're called the Long Island Activists, and they're awesome. And
Ooh, I'm
they
excited.
will phone bank and do all sorts of stuff, and they'll host you for meeting. And
Huh.
they hosted me, and they're in Long Island, so they're
Oh my
really
God,
great.
that's amazing. I will.
Yeah.
I will reach out. I'm sure they're amazing. I'm excited. I mean, they got behind you. They know what they're doing.
I am sure we will have you on again at
Absolutely.
some point.
We'll
closer to
definitely
the
look,
election.
seriously, because now I feel like I get to sit on the other side of this. Like, if ever you feel like you have something you want to share and you want to come on, just reach out and we'll bring you. I mean,
I would love that. I would love that.
because I know how hard it is to get people to have you when you want to go
Yes.
on.
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
I
yeah,
would love
the most
that. And I'd be
beautiful
honored.
gal at the ball.
Yeah.
And we're Jordan Chariton is he's a good friend of mine. And so, if I'll be happy to throw in a word. I'm sure Status
Especially
Quo.
since he lives in
Well,
New
he's in New
York.
York, so I'm sure
Yes.
Status Quo would love to have you on as
I
well.
would
So I'll
love that.
definitely
I would
Yep.
love that.
Put a
I
word
would
in.
love that.
We'll put it out there as much as we can.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. It's amazing.
Thank you,
Lindsay,
Lindsay.
happy holidays. Thanks for coming on. We'll definitely be in touch.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Well, she's lovely.
She's adorable.
Yep.
I knew she was a cutie, but I just never met her, and so that was cool.
It's
Good for her running for. You know what? Seriously.
But the thing we've talked about, and I think this is
Local.
this is what worked for Alex, and I think this is what's going to work for her, and it's what works for for Corey and people like that. The reality is, when you live in an urban setting, everybody lives in close proximity to each other, so it's a lot easier to coalesce and get
It
things
is,
done.
and it's easier to build kind of movements when people can well, the truth is, during COVID, we're kind of all in the same boat, with the exception of that in New York, they're infinitely more susceptible because they all live so close.
Yes. And
So-
it wasn't necessarily, an extended talking point, but again, Cuomo is, and the scary thing is, and this is the thing I wanted to bring up. We didn't really get into it. They did, I think, a survey. I don't know if it was before the election or after the election, but it was sometime right around then, where they started listing, because I think most people are coming to terms with the fact, especially now that Biden is not even president yet, and he's in a freaking walking boot for the next 6 weeks.
Because he was playing with his dog.
I mean,
and that's very dangerous to play
and
with
I
your
was
dog.
watching. Oh, when I was in the gym a little bit earlier, it was ABC News just happened to be on the screen. You have to see the photo that they used to show Biden, and you have to see the photo that they used for Kamala. It is so obvious what they're doing. If you don't know subliminal messaging,
Oh my
I'm
God.
telling you,
Well, they've been
this
trying
is
to
what they
coordinate-
do.
They've been trying to coordinate.
It's
Kamala
so
for 4
obvious.
years.
So
she was getting rammed down our throats one way or another, people. And the fact that she's been able to do it without getting a single vote for her is amazing.
with that said, they did this survey and they were picking who is the person you would most likely support in a Democratic primary in 2024. You know who the number one person was on that list? Andrew Cuomo. Number one. And so I would ask myself, I'm like, well, what exactly is it that would make you think that guy?
What list is that? What?
I didn't make it. I'm just telling
holy
you.
hell list is that? No, just no.
No, obviously not. But what I think that list told me, as much as it tells all of us, is that
Who was second?
we are still.
I need to know who was second. Who else was on that list? And let me guess.
Kamala was not second. I don't remember.
Stacey Abrams.
Stacey was up there.
Amy Klobuchar.
No.
Oh, how about? Let me guess. It wasn't Nina Turner.
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
Well, so
Andrew Yang was like 6th or 7th, I think, and but they're not gonna necessarily poll certain people. The point is, we are still fighting a very big battle when it comes to corporate media. That is still a very big part of the problem. And they define the narrative in many ways. And that's why what we're doing is so important, because we need to build these coalitions. And that's another thing that, unfortunately, I did not ask Lindsay, but I'm sure she would be in total agreement. If we're going to build a sustainable movement that is going to work based on the issues, people have to check their egos at the door. That is a very big problem. There's a lot of people who want that seat at the table. They always want to be seen and heard.
Honestly, It's worse on the left.
It is. We have
It's
people here.
worse on the
We have
left.
people here in
I
this
just-
county who claim to be in the progressive movement, and
Oh
they
my
shun
God.
Jen. They don't even want to know she's alive.
They're not really progressive.
Well, but this is not exactly a progressive bastion of the
No,
United
of
States
course
either.
not.
So it is what it is.
No, it's pretty sad.
And there's no question.
The left eat their own.
Yeah.
The left eat their own infinitely more. I am so sick of it. I'm sick of the social justice warrior, cancel culture bullshit. I am so sick of it. It is so impeding progress.
If your
They think
goal-
they're helping.
It's like, to bring it full circle from what we were talking about earlier with the bootlicker of the week, Aaron Kupar. What you guys have to remember is that the people who you think are deplorable and nasty and blah, 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 like some of my closest friends from New Jersey who are diehard Trump supporters, let me tell you something. We are going to have to get along with them because we will never get Medicare for all if we don't. I am telling you.
Because people keep looking at this as a red and blue thing.
It's not.
It's
It's corporate versus non-corporate. That's it.
I will say this, though. Somebody is like, Jeffrey says Kamala is a Manchurian candidate. I'll better you that. I think she's Hillary in a Kamala suit. I think that if we were going to follow the puppet strings up to above, we would see Hillary sitting there controlling the little Kamala puppet
But people
strings.
who are progressive, and this is the reason why, you have these labels, but the truth of the matter is when you're progressive, you question more. You want to know why things are the way that they are. How could somebody like Kamala Harris get exposed in front of tens of millions of people by Tulsi Gabbard, literally destroyed her campaign,
and
yet she is second in line?
And there she is. Yes, that's because she is Team Hillary.
That's a great sign, by the way.
You liked it?
That Lindsey
Isn't
Boylan.
it cute?
Yeah.
Well, look, I finally bought chalk, and I'm not exactly great at it yet. And also, I will say that my chalkboard is not exactly perfect.
We'll have
chalkboard.
like
It's a
fancy
little
messages
slick.
and stuff that we'll put up
I'll
like
try,
every
but
week.
but if you feel it, like it's not a great chalkboard. Like it's not. It's
Eh,
slick a
it's
little
all right.
bit. And I also bought kid chalk. I think I need like the good chalk.
No, I like the kid chalk
You do?
look. I think that looks good.
Okay, well, that was my.
So for those of you who do like the t-shirt, obviously the goal is to get it to as many volunteers locally as possible. But if you are interested in purchasing one, we are going to, we're working on that right now.
We're
We may
having
restart-
technical difficulties
Yes.
because I can't get an employment identification.
Because remember, you
number.
can volunteer for GenCorps anywhere in the United States. You don't have to be here. You could be anywhere.
Yeah,
just
you
want to
could
help your
be,
community.
If you
We're
could.
just trying
That's
to build
true.
that movement.
It's true.
And we're going to do as we've always done, $23 for 23.
And
so
we're
if
just
you-
our problem is we have no way to accept said money.
Well, we still have the Shopify website, and we could update that. I mean, I think technically we could sell it through that. I don't know.
I don't know.
I'll
We're
look into
having
that.
we're
I'll
having
look into
technical
that.
difficulties and issues with. We first still have to shut down Gen 2020. We still have another report due. Like there's things, and it's complicated. And right now the IRS does not seem to be issuing employer identification
Yeah, the
numbers.
IRS really moving slow.
They're like turtle slow.
Jen debate DeSantis. Well, there's actually somebody who will potentially be running for governor that I think would be really good at debating him.
I am not somebody who likes to debate because what most people consider debates are not actual debates.
Yeah, it's about one-upping people, and that's not what this
and the
is
thing,
about.
see, and here's the thing. To me, a debate is worthwhile when there are two valid sides and those sides kind of have pros and cons, and then people kind of reach a good conclusion from listening to that information. That's a debate, okay? I am not debating Medicare for all. I'm not going to debate what we need to do for climate crisis. I'm not going to debate that we need higher than a $15 minimum wage. I'm not going to debate these things. So like I said, it would be like debating a creationist or a flat earther, and I'm not doing it. Now, so if people want to have debates within policies, like, okay, should we do what type of single payer healthcare system should we do? Should we follow more of the UK system? Should we follow more of an Australian system? Okay, fine. Then we could, write up some good debates and go back and forth. But right now, the idea of debating someone who doesn't accept healthcare as a human right is just not worthy of time.
And especially in lieu of a
There's
pandemic,
no point.
I mean, there is going to be long-term sustainable problems that existed because we didn't have a universal healthcare system. You can blame Donald Trump all you want. If we had a universal healthcare system, it wouldn't matter what Trump did. Everyone would be able to get healthcare at the point of service.
Paid sick leave. What if we had? I mean, there's a.
What if we had a universal basic income?
Well, right.
You wouldn't have to be putting people in harm's way.
Right. I mean,
There would be no
myriad.
excuse.
There's a myriad of things that would have set us up to be dealing with this infinitely better that happened long before Trump.
And all anybody wants to do is
And
just
yet, he's a disaster.
And Trump is a disaster.
He's a disaster.
He is the red dot on the wall that the cat is trying to chase.
He's just such
That's
a mess.
what he is.
I actually look forward to him running again in 4 years. I think not only will that provide a great amusement because it is funny.
Hey, listen, mainstream media, corporate media, they're relying on him to run again because they are losing.
That's what I mean. What
support.
are they going to do if he doesn't? If he's not still in the picture? Well, no. The worst thing for them would be he doesn't run and creates his whole own network and does his whole own.
I think he's going to do that anyway.
He might. Whatever. It's a joke.
He's a carnival act.
He is,
and we are we don't.
I am a little bit annoyed by the leftists that are the supposed people that are like those purist leftists that are all out there sort of saying that there's all this massive voter fraud in this, sort of fueling that flame with him. And there's a bunch of people that are progressives that are out there now saying all this voter fraud. And here's the thing. Yeah, there's fraud all over the place, left and right. Voter fraud, election fraud. There's all kinds of fraud. It's happening.
Systemic
That's where we are
fraud.
now. We are a fraudulent nation.
We are.
Fraud.
So if you're going to call
it's just
out,
the way it is.
So if you're going to if anybody who supported Trump is watching this right now, the reality is, no, what are you talking about? You get people all over watching this. So my point is, would I watch Trump TV? No, but that's not the point. My point is, if you truly think that we have systemic problems with our voting in this country, and we do, then you have to be willing to go right to the heart of the systemic issue, which is we don't have hand-marked paper ballots. We do not have ranked choice voting. We still have corporate special interest money in the political arena. If you're not willing to deal with those three systemic problems, then you don't actually care about changing the problem. That is my point, and that is what everybody should be focused on. So I am going to put out there right now three specific issues.
I wouldn't watch Trump TV. And the reason I wouldn't watch Trump TV is I wouldn't want to support it because I find him to be a hapless buffoon, and I haven't ever.
There's no there there. He's totally vapid.
He's a narcissistic snake oil salesman. I don't care one way or the other. But if you watch that, you're sort of supporting him. So why would I want to do that? There are infinitely more people I would rather support with watching their stuff. Like there's only X amount of hours in a day. Why would I give him my time? There's way too many other good things.
And Lauren is right. Ranked choice voting.
Yeah.
We
really need to maybe do an.
Well, one of the things that we were talking about, if Jen were to run again, is we definitely need to have some type of a ballot initiative. And I think ranked choice voting is the ticket, because I think a lot of people in Florida are interested in that. And the reason I say that is because we almost had jungle primaries pass in Florida.
Well, because a lot of people don't know what that is.
That's true, but we didn't want that.
No,
what I'm saying is the fact that there's but the fact that they were even interested in changing the way voting is done shows that people really want a different.
But the people that want to do that were not the people that we want making the changes. That's the problem.
Again, that's fine, but ranked choice voting could definitely make that change.
Jellyfish, I'm not running for state office. I'm not running for statewide office. It's not happening. Not against Rubio, not for governor. I'm not running for state office. No,
we will definitely help, the right candidates that are going to run.
I'm not campaigning.
I'm
not doing a statewide campaign.
Jen has accepted the fact that she's going to live and die in South Florida, and that's it.
No. I am eventually moving to the mountains where I belong. But in the meantime, if I'm stuck in Florida, I'm not necessarily going to be in charge of the whole state. So here we are.
No, and the reality is, if you want to win statewide office in Florida, you cannot be from down here. You can't. This is not Florida. This is a bubble.
Well, unless you're a Republican with Latino surname.
That is true. And that is the only reason why Rubio is in the United States Senate, is because he has the Cuban vote in Miami. And that is where the difference comes in terms of the vote. And that is what happened when he ran against Patrick Murphy back in 2016. And there is no question that whoever ends up running against Rubio in 2022 is going to lose, because Rubio is not an imminently beatable candidate. The one person in this state who
seems like he would be, because he's such a snivelly little.
He is, but he's really good. But he's actually really good with people one-on-one. He is. And
I find him incredibly douchey.
It is what I'm not saying that he isn't. I'm just simply saying I've seen Rubio in action.
The snivelly.
Rick Scott may be If he's not the most
He's
corrupt,
Voldemort.
if he's not the most corrupt
Voldemort.
person, he's up there.
Oh,
But my God, is he a great politician?
I don't. You know what? Every time you say that, it makes me sick.
He just is.
I guess you and I have different definitions. of what's a politician.
You have to meet.
You mean he's a great snake oil salesman?
Yeah, you have to meet voters where they are.
Okay, to me, that I don't again, and I reiterate what I've been saying for 2 years. A politician shouldn't even be a thing. That's not a thing. That shouldn't be a career. That's not a thing.
That's where we are right now. We're trying to change that narrative. That's what I'm saying. I'm talking about how they appeal to their voters. What I'm saying is the one race, the one statewide race that if the Democrats do it right in this state, they could win, and that's beating Ron DeSantis for the governorship.
It could happen, people.
We
know who we support.
There's only one,
but there's nothing declared, so I feel like we can't really,
Lauren Ashcraft just got engaged. You got to go message her.
I'll have to message her. Oh my God! So congratulations to Lauren Ashcraft.
Hey, Lauren, I know you're not watching right now.
And his name is Paul, right? His name is
Paul.
Paul.
I believe so.
I think Paul. I think his name is Paul. Don't hate me, Lauren, if his name's not Paul. I still get stuck on the fact Lauren does. Thank God, because she introduces him as her partner. And again, and I've reiterated this to so many people, as an older person, when you introduce to me somebody as your partner, the fact that I have to know for sure, you mean business partner, you mean personal partner, like I don't know. So now good for her that it'll be husband and she won't have other people confused as to, do you mean your business partner or something? And I have made that mistake and it's not pleasant. So yes, it is Paul. See, I was right. His name is Paul.
So Seaman is stating that even with ranked choice in most countries, the elitist mentality is still very strong, which turns people toward the likes of Trump. Yeah, there's no system that is going to be foolproof. But the one thing we could do with ranked choice voting is we could break the two-party duopoly stranglehold, which is what they have right now.
Which is why we're not going to, Florida will be the last place to get it, people. So if you live outside of Florida, fight for ranked choice voting. Wait, this is more important. Ali Jama is saying Winnipeg. Now,
it's very cold.
Oh, it's cold. Let me give a little bit of shout out to the Peg, as my best friend and my person is from the Peg. And
really?
So,
They're from there? I didn't know they were that far north in Canada. Wow.
Alyssa?
Well, that's
from Winnipeg.
Well, Winnipeg is the furthest city north in the world that has a professional sports team, the Winnipeg Jets.
Only you would know this.
Well,
okay.
Of course.
Also important, fun fact, Winnipeg is the Slurpee capital of the world.
That is true.
Yes, it is.
Doesn't make sense, but
it makes it, look, I'm telling you. And another fun fact about Winnipeg is Winnie the Pooh is named for Winnipeg because Milne was from there. And so Winnie is for Winnipeg.
Thank you for coming to Jen's TED Talk.
Thank you for coming to my Winnipeg TED Talk. Shout out to Alyssa, my girl, my person. And I don't even think she ever watches me. That's the saddest part. But yeah, so
I try to share it everywhere.
I'm a fan of Winnipeg and I've never been there. So
if you guys have not subscribed to the channel, please do right now. We're also on Spotify and Apple Podcast. And obviously, make sure that you're following us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
Could always go for Slurpee. Ask him. We could be out and I'd be like, you know what? I could have Slurpee. John Pagoda, if I call here, let's put this up here.
Yeah. I don't think this lady would ever call Pelosi
if I called Nancy Pelosi Mama Bear,
then you really are a fraud.
Me.
Yeah, then you are a fraud.
Then you just shoot me right dead, because that I can't imagine. So if then the pod people have come and taken over me in that case, and that should happen. So.
And listen, I'm not here to, coddle Alex. She's definitely, look, AOC, she's the leader.
I'm not judging any of those people for anything.
It is what it is. But what I will say is that her making the statement, Mama Bear, I just have a sinking feeling.
She regrets that one?
It's not that she regrets it. It's that I don't think it was her who initiated it. I think somebody in her team who is DC friendly made the suggestion that you should do this because it'll look good to the moderates. And
case in point, you don't need to have all insiders running your PR and your messaging. But I've always been very clear, because a lot of people, even especially when I was running, were trying to get me to say things negative about the squad when they didn't act as progressive as they were expected to, when they didn't do what they were expected to do. And I'm never going to do that, because you don't know. I know the myriad of things that I don't know, and I'm not in there. So there's so many variables. There's so many things.
How much have you learned just in the last year and change from people that you can't repeat their name, you can't repeat things that they've said to you, but you're like, it gives you a completely different perspective about what really goes on.
Yeah, the point is I'm never, it's very easy to play Monday morning quarterback with a lot of their stuff.
That's right.
And what it really comes down to is,
do you support the issues, and do you take corporate money? And if you support the issues and you don't take corporate money, let them do what they have to do.
And here's the thing, and all of them won very handedly in their reelections.
Oh, yeah.
And so what that says to me is that they're doing their job. If you're representing your constituents, then you're doing your job. The rest of us that are not, unless you are a constituent to that person, it is really not your concern how they're representing their people if they are representing their people. I mean, that's just, that goes for conservative places too.
Debbie Wasserman Schultz, wins her election, but she doesn't win it by these overwhelming margins. Yes, she beat Jen by a very comfortable margin, but you have to consider all the variables that went into it, everything that the county did to keep us down. But when you get to the general election and independents and Republicans, and yes, Democrats who don't like Debbie are able to vote, they make up almost, 42, 43% of the vote. The point is, that shows you that a lot of these other elected officials, even Ted Deutsch, who is liked in his district, he doesn't win by overwhelming margins. A lot of these candidates do not win the way you think they win. Some of them do, but a candidate like Alex, a candidate like Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, they win by ungodly margins.
And with so much more against them. So it's sort of
people are enthusiastically voting for them.
You know what we should create, since you're a sports person? I'm going to tell you, this is something, and my husband would laugh if I don't think he ever watches our live stream either. But there's one of these things that I just never understand, and I'm never going to understand. I don't want you to try to explain it to me. It has to do with the point spread. Okay. I'm never going to understand it in a million years, but I think that if you were to apply a similar kind of tactic to these races, that the people that we're talking about, they won by exponentially more based on what they were against, based on what they had stacked against them. So that's how I see it. So you can't look at it just the number alone. You have to look at what was the impediments? What was the numbers in the other direction? Right. How much money was in the other side? So, I mean, that's really what we're.
But but like Lindsey said, as I'm sure Cori would say, you're not running against one person. You're literally running against a system that has been put in place for a long time. In the case of Wasserman Schultz, it's a system that literally spans a generation, 30 years.
And
that's a long time.
Let's be real. It's name recognition.
That's a big part of it.
And not necessarily good. It doesn't have to necessarily be
And
good.
on top of that, we happen to represent, or would be attempting to represent, a district that has a considerably older population that just simply will not change. That doesn't mean that the demographics are not changing.
Well, that's right, because they are dying off. And let me tell you something, COVID's thinning the herd.
And with that said, there is something that I wanted to bring up today that we hadn't talked about.
Is this like, should I?
No, this is big. And this
concerned.
is not, you're not going to be happy about this.
I want to preface it like that. All right. Well, I've got my little bowl right here.
Well, Jen's got her bowl.
I've got
no
my little
pun
pipe,
intended.
so I'm good.
She's got a
Tell
pipe.
me what's going on.
So as you guys may know, probably I would say the most aggressive advocacy group for marijuana legalization or cannabis legalization is NORML.
Yeah.
They work their butts off, and there is a vote.
And the political arm is Regulate Florida. So if you're looking for when they endorse, it's not going to be NORML. NORML can't endorse. Regulate Florida endorses. So just so people know. Right. So a Regulate Florida endorsement is essentially a NORML endorsement.
Regulate Florida endorses pro-cannabis.
Yes. But what are you going to say? Were we going to talk about how Debbie's going to vote against decriminalization of cannabis?
Well, there's an even bigger kicker. So as it turns out,
I love my cannabis.
Yeah. So as it turns out, the entire South Florida delegation is voting in favor of the MORE Act, or the Moores Act, I think it is. If any of you guys know, I think it's MORE Act or Moores Act, which is decriminalization, expunging records. It's a great bill.
Yeah.
And ironically, who is the person who wrote the bill? It's Jerrold Nadler.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
all right, so he's not all horrible.
No, he's not. No, listen, Lindsey would definitely be an improvement, but Nadler was not as bad as like Hakeem Jeffries is. That'd be a good example.
Okay,
so my point is, every single every member of the South Florida congressional delegation is voting in favor of this bill, except Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Well, She does say that marijuana is a gateway drug.
And apparently her voting record proves it. So what else can you say? But you see,
I cannot think of somebody who more needs a bong hit than that woman. My mother-in-law. My mother-in-law could really use a bong hit. But I got to tell you, Debbie Wasserman-Schultz is definitely up there with somebody that would really benefit from a really good bong hit. That's what I think.
Yeah. And so, like I said, we're at a point now where
I can't even.
She's
5 years older than me. We're not even a different generation.
But the reason she's voting against this is because of where she takes her money.
We don't know that for sure. Look, yes, that is a problem. But for all we know, she very well could be anti-cannabis. I have no clue. She very well could be.
So then why are you on the Democratic side?
Well, why is she there anyway?
Why are you even why are you in
why
elected
is someone
office?
like our sheriff there? Because they go there because that's the only party that wins here. They just go there and everyone just votes blue and they don't bother to actually look what that means.
And again, public domain says vetting is undervalued. Yeah, it is undervalued. It's like I said, like Kirsten. It's like Kirsten Sinema dressing with her purple hair and trolling Mike Pence.
Again,
that's nice. That's funny. But you know what's even better? Knowing how she votes and where her money comes from. Yeah. That's better.
But
that's more important.
They do those things because that's a way to stay relevant and popular without having a good voting record. Correct. And you don't have to stand for anything.
Correct.
I am actually surprised that Debbie's voting against all the other South Florida contingents. That's interesting to me. Normally she kind of is they're normally together with the exception of wasn't Frederica the one recently that was like the lone sane vote in something? I'm trying to remember what it was. Yeah. There was something recently where Frederica, go figure, was on the proper side. Now, again, who knows why? I'm sure there were other reasons other than it was just the right thing to do.
No, listen, there could be a lot of different reasons why people are voting the way that they vote. But when it comes to civil liberties, Debbie's record is beyond atrocious. Beyond. Like
she's a weed warrior. And I don't care what her reason is.
And when you think about
you can take my guns, but you better not take my weed.
When you think about especially South Florida, which is the opioid capital of the United States. Oh, yes.
I would think Appalachia. Are you sure?
Based on population.
Oh, okay.
And if you know anything about what goes on down here with the halfway houses and all the problems that we have, the fact that this woman, who is the leader of the Florida Democratic Party, is anti-decriminalization.
Yeah.
It's like, that's twofold. I take all my money from Big Pharma and I take all my money from the the for-profit prison industry.
Well, yeah.
It's so transparently clear with this woman. It's amazing.
She is just a weed warrior. I don't know.
If you're a weed warrior,
I don't understand it.
No, but you could be a weed warrior and still support decriminalization.
No, if you're a weed warrior, you
think you should be in prison for smoking marijuana. Well,
maybe
are you taking the pot?
Am I taking the pot?
It's like
oh my God,
over the hill. Funny. We never want to talk about her, but the fact that somebody brought it to our attention on social media today.
Yeah, denying Medicare for all isn't on starter.
That's even. Hi, Joe. Yeah, it's again. It goes without saying she's bad, but people need to know just how bad she is.
She wants to take away our cannabis.
She just doesn't want you to have fun.
No,
because she's probably miserable to begin with, and like a lot of people in life,
I hate it when it gets personal.
Yeah, well, listen. A lot of times in life, we learn that people who are not happy, rather than try to find ways to make themselves happy, they want to bring you down to their level. And so very often you'll see somebody like Debbie.
So it could be that, or it could just be she's a corporate whore.
I think it's both. I think it's both.
I guess it could be both. It could be a nice little overlap between corporate whoredom and just.
Ted Deutsch is voting for it. Frederica Wilson's voting for it. Alcee Hastings is voting for it.
What about Shalula and Mercoso Powell on their way out the door? Don't let the door hit you on your way out. That's what I would say to them.
Donna Shalala really, Shalala in particular is just.
They're both completely useless and feckless.
You see Shalala in the interviews with the arms folded.
You do realize that of all the incumbents that lost their seats, those are the two that were in the highest plus Dem districts.
Not surprised.
Those two in Florida, our two lost congressional seats, where one was a +6 and a +5 blue.
And remember,
those are the worst. Like if we went back to my point spread thing, these would be the worst outcomes in the entire country.
+5 and +6 respectively. But remember, no matter what they tell you, no matter how much they try to convince you that it's this anti-socialist message, I can assure you that it wasn't the reason they lost, because Daniela Levine Cava is now the mayor of Miami-Dade County.
And she was supported by the Sunrise Movement. And she look, we have questions as to whether or not she's really progressive, but on paper, she's
compared to Bono, she's obviously, or Bovo, she would certainly be better. And she is definitely more progressive than Debbie McChrystal-Powell and Donna Shalala, especially Donna Shalala.
Okay, and so those getting, and the fact that, all right, we can't relive an old bootlicker because Donna Shalala was our bootlicker from
that. Well, but the point is, it's all about the issues, guys, and it's whether or not you take the dirty money. We got to keep it simple because that's what most people understand. They want it to keep it simple. Stupid. It's the economy. Stupid. You keep it simple, and you never know how many new people you might bring in. Look, this is going to take time.
Yeah.
But we're in it for the long haul, and we're excited about the prospects. And we can't reveal who it is.
He can't even contain himself.
But you just
can't contain yourself.
There's going to be a very big platform.
We're making a little trip this week.
Yes.
And
we'll be on our live stream next Thursday.
We will. I'll be back by then. Will you? Exactly.
But by the skin of my teeth.
Some people refuse to buy direct flights and feel the need to not fly with me and to take their own way. So whatever.
If you
were coming home with me, then you'd be home. You'd be home at noonish. So we're doing a little venture next week. Can we say where we're going?
We are going to our nation's capital.
We're going to DC, but
but we're not telling you where we're going. So what we do have tomorrow, though, if you guys want to tune in, it's at
2 o'clock.
That's at 2 o'clock. So Jen is going to be we're going to be testing out a podcast live stream for the first time.
We haven't done that yet.
Yes. And so let's put the lady's name in.
What we've been doing because there's people on here that they're not podcast people, they're just
what's
they
the
watch our
name?
live stream. Eleanor Goldfield.
Hold
on. I have to check.
Goldfield. Live stream podcast at 2 p.m.
Yeah. So basically
that's her name?
Yeah, Goldfield.
And it'll be on the same channels, guys, right here on, we run it through StreamYard, so you can see it on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter.
But when I do, like for people who have not seen one of our podcasts other than the live streams,
right?
They're more just in-depth interviews, and it's not necessarily with Politico talking heads. It's different people, and I kind of geek out. Like I'm somebody, I watch a documentary every day. Every day I watch, I am a documentary geek. I really am. Let's see if we could get Ken Burns to come on my show.
or
Oliver Stone.
Well, Oliver Stone, we're hoping for.
Anyway, so Eleanor is a documentary filmmaker, and she was referred to us by our friend of the show, Lee Camp. She also does a podcast with him, and so and I love promoting documentaries. So it's a geeky thing. So arguably, it's not our usual.
And then the other one that you're going on, I believe, is at 4 o'clock with 350 South Florida. Jen is going to be talking about the environment, and that is going to be loads of fun. Let me, if you can.
My calendar, is that what you're wanting to see? 6 o'clock, I'm on a 350 Zoom.
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Is it 350 South Florida?
Yes.
Okay. So it's our local 350 South Florida. I don't know. It said something about, was this the pizza thing? Am I getting pizza?
No, Pizza and Politics is on Thursday, the 10th, right when you come back. You come back on the 10th in the afternoon, and then the Pizza and Politics, I think, is like at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
And
that's
then
next
we have
Friday.
Our live stream. So I basically come back from DC.
Yeah, we're not slowing down.
I will say that Pizza and Politics is definitely not as funny via Zoom.
Well, Jen is only going to be the second candidate who's going to be on this. The only other person.
Who else is there?
Ed Markey was the first one.
Oh,
so
cool.
You are
with our 350 South Florida?
No, Pizza and Politics.
Oh, Pizza and Politics.
Yes.
What's that? Like, what group is that's doing that?
It's a up and coming college progressive group.
I like those college kids. They're
350 South Florida at 6 p.m. on Zoom. I'm not. We'll definitely provide the information. I don't have it.
Public domain. Yeah. If it were up to me, we'd be dispensing cannabis like it's nobody's business. I believe everybody should be entitled to cannabis, which is why everybody before I forget to say it, never support legislation that doesn't allow for home grow.
Yep.
Okay. So I think everybody should be entitled to grow weed.
Beer and politics.
And I don't want to grow
at.
weed. I'm barely being able to grow my sunflower microgreens. I mean, I would be
pizza, beer, and politics.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Something like
Pizza,
that.
beer, and politics. That would be fun. I'm not a beer person, but I can appreciate other people liking beer.
If you guys haven't subscribed, one more time, make sure you're subscribed here. Make sure you share the video, like the video, comment once it's dropped. Also, make sure that you check out our current podcasts that have been dropped. I think we've got 13 now.
There's a lot of episodes. There's some good stuff
Yes.
there. And you can be a Patreon member for even $1 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And we just sent out our $5. Everyone who has done $5 will be getting their bracelets. I just finally sent them. I was waiting for really cute thank you cards.
I think
So
we
I
may
have my
do
bracelets.
if you do the
$10
a month,
the $10
you get
a month
maybe we'll
Patreon
get
member is
t-shirts.
going to be getting a generational change shirt
Right.
once we commit to a design. But now we're moving along. So we have one set of shirts. We need another set of shirts.
I subscribed before it was cool.
Yeah, you did. And you know what? We appreciate that. So anybody who is a $5 and up person gets a bracelet. Anybody who is a $10 subscriber will end up getting a generational change shirt. And that's where we are.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said, make sure you tune in tomorrow for the podcast live stream at 2 p.m. And Jen
And
also,
if you can't, it'll
Yes.
still be on our thing.
it'll
You
still
will
be on.
able
It'll
to
still
watch
drop.
the interview.
Like, comment, subscribe, share, do all those wonderful things. And we really appreciate you coming on
can't go
tonight.
without
We
doing
really
it. You
appreciate
cannot
you.
just-
All you're really
you-
great, babe. Let me tell you something. I'm starting my TV show. It's going to be Trump TV, and we're going to offer you a spot on the show, Jen. You're really, really incredible. You bring a lot of people in. Look at those ratings.
See, now here's the thing. I would
ratings,
go on Trump
really,
TV.
really
I
great.
won't watch
Really
Trump TV,
great.
but I'll
No,
go
really
on
great.
Trump TV.
Really great. And these really incredible people are really commenting. They're doing a really, really incredible job. You're doing a tremendous job. And that Lindsey person you brought on before, oh, she's lovely and she lives in New York. I probably should give her a call sometime. You never know. She may like me. I'm a pretty decent guy. You know what I mean?
Public domain, barely inhaled. See, no, you got to go deep. You got to go deep.
Oh, watch your mouth. Yeah, that's inappropriate. Yeah.
Everything about me is inappropriate.
Yeah,
I think
for real.
I think you've already established that.
Jen, you are not doing a very good job right now. I think you're getting yourself a little out of control, and you have to understand that people need to look up to you like you're a leader.
No, I really do love it that Thurgood's like right over my shoulder. Whenever I look, he's like right over my shoulder.
I really
freaking
appreciate
love it.
Thurgood, the Thurgood Marshall Scholarship Fund. It's a really, really great organization, and they do really great things to help people. And maybe we might see each other in DC. You never know.
I'm disappointed with him.
A lot of people are disappointed with
I'm
me,
very
but it's not.
disappointed with him, and
it's
I-
us. It's we are starting a political
I
revolution. It
understand
takes
that.
time. It takes time. I can't do it all by myself. That is the essence, the importance
No,
of
what I
building the
see
movement.
is I look at this and I see major cojones. See, that's cojones. And what we have now, not so much. How we went from that to this woman, I just can't even.
Come on, man.
Or like I can imagine what Thurgood would think about Brett Kavanaugh. I remember when Clarence
Don't you just wanna-
Thomas got appointed, and I remember, Thurgood's rolling over in his grave. Like, this is not good.
Yeah, this court is just
Horrible.
not the same anymore.
It's terrible.
Oh well,
So,
but you know what? The reality is, it kind of just needed to. It all needs to fall apart.
it does.
it
But
all
I
needs
was
to fall
just,
apart.
I always had such high esteem for
Yeah.
our top jurists, and now it's like just a joke.
Because you got so many people that you just got to nudge forward and be like, hey, we're changing the way things are done around here. It's time for a legitimate, radical, revolutionary
We're
type
having
change.
a revolution.
We are. It's just a question of
Hopefully you
when it
guys can
happens,
join us.
because they're not going to be able to hold us off forever. So with that
No.
said,
Bye all.
thanks for checking in. We will see you guys soon.
End.